You are Locked On Giants POSTCAST. Part of Locked On Sports New York on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, we are back. The worst team in the NFL played like it today. Saints beat the Giants at MetLife Stadium in a wild one, 14-11. Drew Lock contributed very little until the end, as did the offense as a whole. The G-Men are now 2-11. Hello, everyone. I'm Jay Berman. If you're a New Yorker, you might recognize my work. If not, welcome aboard. Spent more than 2 decades in the biz, everything from TV to web to radio. Follow me on X at Jay Berman, Jayberman. Meanwhile, Dr. Anthony Blevins is back, the former Giants special teams coach for the better part of a decade. Great to have him aboard. All right, before we get going, first want to welcome you to the Locked On Giants postcast, both on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel and the Locked On Giants podcast feed. The postcast gives you a place to hang out after every single Giants game. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, we'll discuss everything Drew Lock and much, much more coming up on the postcast. You can start this season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel to get started. All right, Coach, 14-11. Obviously a wild finish. We'll get to it. Your thoughts on yet another loss?
Yeah, offensively, it was just abysmal. It was hard to watch up until the last drive. But, Drew Lock, he was 0 for 8 to start the game. The O-line was terrible. I thought the pass protection was awful. Until they start running the ball and run the ball consistently, they're going to struggle week in and week out. And I don't care who they play the rest of the season. They have got to get the run game established and stick with it and keep these quarterbacks from dropping back 30 to 40 times a game because they can't protect right now. It's obvious. The Saints did nothing on defense. They didn't pressure him a whole lot. They rushed 4 and got pressure on the quarterback. He never looked good in the pocket, never looked stable in the pocket. It was just abysmal to watch them play offensive football.
Why are they struggling so much, despite the fact that obviously it's a makeshift offensive line? There's been some injuries. Obviously, Drew Lock is there, and we know his prowess. But why do you think at this point in time they struggle really rudimentary stuff just to run the ball?
You know what? I really don't know. And I think it's probably that time of the season where you take the pass off. You've been beat up all year long, so you don't really do all the physical stuff in practice. And it's hard to do it in December because guys are beat up. You got injuries. You got guys coming in off the street. You got Chris Hubbard. You got Steeney that filled in when Runyon got hurt. So it is hard to get that timing with the offensive line. Hard to just get that play and see all the different things that you need to see full speed with the pass on, being physical in practice, because you just can't do it this time of year.
Obviously, just 2 wins is terrible, no matter how you slice it. But those 2 wins came in Cleveland and Seattle, which is amazing to think about how they ever beat the Seahawks up in Seattle. Point being, they're struggling in front of the home folks, and they're going to, at this point in time, continue to be winless at home. They're 0 for 7 at home this season. Why the struggles at home? Really, this is where you should be comfortable.
It should be where you're comfortable, but there's a lot of pressure that gets on you when you're at home. You're around family, you're around friends, you're around the local media. So there's a lot of other things, worried about tickets and not worried about taking care of football on the field on Sunday. So there can be a lot of different things that happen when you're at home, playing at home in front of your home crowd where you should be comfortable. But just for whatever reason, the Giants have not felt at home in MetLife. It's been lifeless in MetLife, if you will.
Yeah, it really has. And you mentioned Drew Lock, who has made 25 starts in the NFL and committed 27 turnovers. That includes today. 2 against Dallas on Thanksgiving, 1 more late pick today. And as you said, he started 0 for 8, which just feels amazing and basically impossible. No disrespect, but he's the first Giant quarterback to start at least 0 for 7 since 1991. Again, Drew Lock, not the future.
Yeah, Drew Lock's not the future. Tommy Cutlass is not the future. They've got to go out and draft a quarterback. They've got to go out and get a veteran quarterback to go along with that group. a Sam Darnold, if you will. He's a free agent, or Russell Wilson, whoever it is. You got to go get a veteran guy that can be that stopgap for you, and go get a rookie. You know, this class coming out, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe. There's a lot of guys that'll be there when the Giants pick, because they'll be in the top 5, somewhere in the top 5, probably in the top 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk about that more coming up. The Jaguars beat the Titans today. The Raiders did not win. So the Giants now are in the 2 spot. Obviously, still plenty of time to go. Now, with all that being said, this is an amazing stat. The Saints had 11 plays for negative yards. So, especially on the run defensive side of things, the Giants defense actually played pretty well. Now, not to take anything away from them, but the Saints aren't great. Point is, the defense actually played pretty well. Lots of negative plays for New Orleans.
Yeah, the defense played well enough to win. They should have won that game. There is no doubt they played well enough to win. The defensive line, without Dexter, without DJ Davidson and Nacho, those guys played well enough to win. They stopped the run. Alvin Kamara did not really get going. Miller did not really get going, and they made some plays. I think at one point, Micah McFadden had 4 tackles for loss, to go along with that stat you mentioned. So they played well. They had a missed coverage, a blown coverage down in the red zone to go up 14-3 at that time. But other than that, I thought they played really good, played competitive, and they played well enough to win defensively.
Obviously, you cannot take away the 2 touchdown drives, because those are the scores that eventually led to a win for New Orleans. However, if you take away the 98-yard drive, which was early, and then the second touchdown drive, as you said, Giants defense was not terrible despite all the injuries.
Yeah, I really thought they played well. They had a great game plan. They sent some pressure, and they got a lot of production. You saw Thibodeau started getting some action. You saw Brian Burns make plays, and Chapman on the inside. They stopped the run. I mean, and that's where it starts at. To play good defensive football, you have to be able to stop the run, and that's what they did for the most part of the day. Derek Carr, honestly, he never looked comfortable in the pocket, to be honest with you. He made some bad throws, and, it was good to see that the Giants finally came up with an interception. Trey Hawkins got an interception, first interception they've had defensively since week 1. So they made some plays, and they played well enough to win. But when you play in a game like that, on defense, sometimes you got to score on defense as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the franchise record now for consecutive losses is 9. That has been tied. So, 1 away. The Giants have lost 8 in a row. Believe it or not, they've lost 9 in a row 3 times, including not that long ago in 2019. So, obviously, it's been a rough stretch, 2-11. Where do the Giants go from here looking forward? Obviously, we'll get into the schedule, but not much you can work from this game.
No, it's not. It's going to be hard until they get the offensive line fixed and play with some consistency. Because the Giants have been all year, they've been consistently inconsistent. That's the MO of this team. They've had 2 games back to back with 10+ penalties or more. You cannot win in this league committing those type of penalties. They had a penalty on a field goal that Graham Gano made. The guy dumps him. They've been taught that since day one. You can't pick a guy up and dump him on his head and think the refs are not going to call it. And that took points off the board. And those are bad penalties. And that team knows better. They've got to play with better discipline, better consistency in order to be in a game late in the year.
Now, obviously, a 2-win team is going to make a lot of mistakes, as you mentioned. How about this? On Thanksgiving, the Giants committed 13 penalties, 12 more today. It's the first time with 10+ penalties in back-to-back games since 2018. So they're making mistakes, as you would expect a 2-win team to do. However, drops as well. They now have 26 drops, 3rd in the NFL. At one point in the second half, the Giants had, get this, 6 3-and-outs and only 4 first downs. Also at one point, this is amazing stuff, they failed to convert on 9 consecutive third downs at one point. This is a disaster from top to bottom, left to right, up, down, north, south. However you want to slice it, they stink.
Yeah, there's been nothing positive, especially on the offensive side of the ball all year. This game, I mean, you can go to any game and probably pick out a bunch of stats like this. It's record level infertility, if you will. It's just bad across the board.
All right. As for the stats, we haven't looked at them yet, but believe it or not, and I didn't realize, but Drew Lock threw 49 passes today. That obviously because the running game wasn't there. Lock actually rushed for 59 yards. A couple of those rushes, big plays. Tyrone Tracy, 16 for 45. So the average was obviously low. But again, Lock threw 49 passes for 227 and a pick. Again, he was not great. He's not great. He's never going to be great. And he's certainly not the future. One wonders who the two quarterbacks will be next year for the Giants. As for Malik Neighbors, he'll certainly be there. Targeted 10 times, mostly in the second half. 5 for 79. He looks frustrated, Coach.
Yeah, it's a shame that this is the second time we've done a broadcast, and it's the same stat line when it comes to Malik Neighbors. They've got to get him the ball in the first half. He's their best player. Why would you not throw him the ball and force feed him against Dallas? I mean, how many? I don't remember what he had, but he had a lot of catches against Dallas. So you've got to give him the ball, and they're going to play better on offense if they can get him the ball. He's going to open up things in the pass game. He's going to open up things in the run game as well. So when your best player is not getting the ball, that shows you a lot about how they play on offense.
All right, you're watching the Locked On Giants postcast as the Giants lose again, this time to the New Orleans Saints, 14-11. My name is Jay Berman. Good to have you aboard. We're joined, as we are every week, by the doctor, Anthony Blevins, former Giants special teams coach, and we're happy to have him aboard. We'll take a break and get to some more numbers, which were just amazing, really amazing stuff that we want to share with you again. Quick break. We'll be right back. All right, I'm going to be honest. I didn't love college the first time around, but now I've got a different take. I find history fascinating, and lucky for me, and you too, because of our sponsor, Hillsdale College, they're offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, more than 40. Here's a few of the courses available. Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution. Introduction to Free Market Economics, the Great American Story. A Land of Hope, that's one that I would definitely take. Plus, there's the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Also want to tell you about Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users. Sign up today. Sign up. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, we are back after a 14-11 stinker, and it tells you all you need to know about the Saints and Giants. Neither team is very good. As we said, Drew Lock got the start. Believe it or not, Coach, we saw Tommy DeVito for one play. I'm still trying to figure out what that was about. Maybe Lock got the wind knocked out of him. I don't know. What was the purpose of one play for Tommy DeVito? We all thought DeVito was going to stay in, but with 9 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, one play. How about that?
Yeah, I really, when he came in, I was kind of like you. It's like, okay, well, they're making a switch, try to get a spark in the offense, because that was the narrative when he played against Tampa, was like, well, let's spark the offense. As bad as they were at that point, they needed a spark. But I was really confused about why he came in for one play. Maybe it was a package that they wanted to get to a little earlier and do some things off of that package, but they never got to it. I really don't know. It's baffling just to see him play one play. And then, you get the crowd all hyped up, the crowd gets going, and he comes out, they start booing. And I felt like it was a bad time in the game for Drew Lock, who's probably struggling with his confidence a little bit at that time, to go back in and hear the boos from the crowd at that point. But I'm still baffled about that.
Yeah, I know. And what's even more amazing is the Lock drives after that got him back in the game, which is amazing. But again, very confusing stuff in regards to DeVito and why he ever entered the game for just one play. All right, we talked about some crazy numbers. And, Coach, you mentioned Trey Hawkins, his first NFL pick. Get this. The last pick the Giants had was week 1. An NFL record, 11 games without an interception. Again, week 1 was the last pick. They now have a second pick this year. Just goes to show how terrible the Giants have been in all phases.
Yeah, it's been hard to watch. And when you're struggling on offense, on defense, you talk about creating turnovers, creating scores on defense, and then you're not getting any turnovers on defense. It makes it hard. It makes it an uphill game. And that just shows you where the Giants are this year. Nothing's going their way. They're not scoring points on offense. I think they're before this game, they're averaging 3 points per game. And then you're not scoring on defense. You're not getting field position. And when you do, they can't score offensively. So it's just a bad look all the way around right now in New York right now.
Yeah, and in regards to Trey Hawkins, the Giants have not won the turnover battle in any game this season. They're 0 for 13. Point being, no NFL team has ever finished a season without winning a turnover battle at least once. The Giants haven't won one turnover battle. Just goes to show they're not opportune. They never take advantage, and all they do is make mistakes. Add it all up, you're never going to win the turnover battle, thus never going to win a game.
Yeah, turnover battle, that's probably the biggest key to winning and losing. When you win a turnover battle, you can get 3 turnovers on defense or 2, and you don't give it away. That is the biggest stat that relates to winning in the NFL. So the Giants have got to do something. And they say turnovers come in bunches. Maybe this one sparks them for a run down the stretch with 4 games left, maybe. But typically, it's not going to happen like that.
Yeah, you mentioned the Giants defense was able to keep Alvin Kamara down 17 for 44. That's an average of 2.6. And obviously the Saints are beat up as well. No Olave, no Taysom Hill, who's a huge part of the offense. But again, the Giants did what they needed to do to keep the offense down, holding them to just 14 points. Now, obviously, no Derek Carr late, but the Giants defense did their job, kept the team in the game. The problem, of course, is the offense, which is just non-existent.
Yeah, on defense, I mean, they've got nothing to hang their head on. On defense, they played well enough to win. They've got to try to create more turnovers, obviously, like we just talked about. But they did a good job. Offensively, the offense has got to come and help those guys because those guys are competing on defense. Those guys are playing their butts off. They're playing the way you want to play Giants football on defense. They're just getting no help. They're getting no help from the kicking game. They're getting no help from the offense right now at this point. So it's going to be a struggle down the stretch, but the offense has to step up, and they've got to figure it out, and they've got to be able to put 20-plus points on the board down the stretch.
Yeah, there's nothing downfield either. Obviously, Neighbors made a couple of catches downfield, and Slayton did as well. But again, lots of dinking and dunking from Bellinger and Tracy and even Wandale. Nobody's open downfield. The offense just doesn't work. And from a defensive perspective, if you know there's no plays downfield, load up the box, easy to stop. Giants can't run, can't pass, can't do anything.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the offensive line. You can't throw it downfield because you can't protect. There's not enough time for the quarterback to sit back there, go through his reads, and throw it 20, 30, 40 yards down the field. It goes back to that point. If your offensive line is not good and they're giving up pressure, especially against 4-man pressure, that's all New Orleans sent. They would do some things where they would drop Chase Young out, send DeMario Davis, but it's still 4. At the end of the day, it's still 4. You've got 5 to protect 4. You should be fine. You should be able to sit back there and hold the ball. The Giants just can't do it. That O-line right now is struggling, and they're struggling mightily. And I don't know why, but they are.
Yeah, you mentioned the 5 and the 4. I was thinking about this because they showed several replays throughout the day. 5 offensive linemen could not block 4 rushers. And obviously, when 4 beats 5, you have no chance in any facet of the offense. Running, intermediate passing, deep passing, it just can't happen.
Yeah, when you're struggling like that, you've got to do stuff. You got to get the tight ends involved, keep the running backs in. You got to match protect, and then you got to run 2-man routes. Now that's hard because defensively you can cover everybody up. You can double team everybody. But so the Giants have got to do something. They've got to formation people, move people around, and to try to get people open. But they have got to figure out a way to protect that offensive line, protect the quarterback so he can throw it down the field. That's the only way you're going to get explosive plays because, like you said, to your point, everybody's just going to load the box on them and dare you to throw it over the top because you can't protect.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's something we've seen really for the better part of 3 months from the Giants. And luckily, there's about a month to go. As we said, we're going to try and find a win for you. 4 games remaining, 2 at home, 2 on the road. And the coach and I will try and find a win. Who knows if we do, but we're going to give it a crack anyways. We'll take our last break as you enjoy the splendid voice of Dr. Anthony Blevins here on the Locked On Giants postcast. My name is Jay Berman. Again, our final break. We'll be right back. All right, folks, listen up. Now is your chance to start the season with a big return. Yep, you can do it with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So here's what you do when you have a hunch in the middle of the game. Go over to FanDuel, check out the latest stats, view live, play-by-play, and so much more. The best part is it's all on the same page where you place your bets. Everything is right there for you. As for the numbers today, Giants and Saints obviously coming way under. The total was 40.5. 14 plus 11 is 25, so we're nowhere near that. Believe it or not, the Giants covered today. They were getting 5.5 from the Saints. So again, Giants cover, the under hits. 14-11 is the final score. So you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. All right, we are back. Final segment of the show. You're watching the Locked On Giants postcast as the Giants hosted the Saints today. Not a full house. In fact, Coach, looking on the secondary market earlier today, and this is the part that John Mara is going to hate, there were upper-level seats for $1. $1. That tells you all you need to know about the current state of the Giants.
Well, yeah, John's not going to like that. Nobody in the Giants organization is going to like season tickets for it or game tickets for $1. That's not a good look. On the broadcast, TV broadcast, you saw Giants fans with bags on their heads. It's just embarrassing for the fan base right now to sit there. I guess the best part of the game, it looked like it was good weather for New York this time of year today. That's the only positive, that came out of this game today.
What's amazing, and you're right, it was about 54 degrees, which is like a heat wave here in New York. Regardless, the Giants have now lost 19 straight games when trailing after the third quarter. What's that tell you about the Giants moving forward? Again, worthy of repeating, 19 straight games they've lost when trailing after the third. Amazing.
Yeah, I'll say this. I don't think there's any quitting these guys. I think you saw that today. They played to the end, threw a pick at the end, had a chance to kick a field goal, win it, kick gets blocked. So those guys fight, they play. You get to the fourth quarter and that adrenaline gets going, and then you think you become Superman and make a play that you normally don't make. They just got to continue to play their game through the game they played through the first 3 quarters. And then continue to take it to the fourth and quit trying to make Superman type plays. Just play it out. I thought the field goal was low. It was a low kick. The guy jumped over. He's falling down to the ground. That ball should have been up and over. And Graham's better than that. I know that. But it's a struggle, when you can't win games in the fourth quarter, because the NFL, all these games come down to one possession, one score at the end of the game. And in order to be good in this league, you've got to be able to score in 2 minutes, and you've got to be able to stop people in 2 minutes in the fourth quarter.
All right, no one better to discuss the special teams with than you. So we'll do it. As you said, Graham Gano didn't get the kick high enough. Really not a hard kick. Would have sent it into overtime. Not only that, but there was no Derek Carr as well. And you could see the backup quarterback for New Orleans, who we've never heard of, basically had no chance to move the ball down the field. So the Giants had a very good chance to win the game in overtime. But again, point being, special teams was a problem today.
Well, I think we go back, even let's look further. The Giants had a chance to win the game in regulation. They had a field goal taken off the board earlier in the third quarter because of a penalty. And that goes back to, just being undisciplined, far as what are you being coached, how are you being coached, and trying to take the game into your own hand. Block the guy, you don't have to dump him on his head. Then the game's tied. And then, maybe the same situation comes up. Graham misses it, but you still got a chance to go to overtime because you made the field goal earlier. So, it just goes back to the Giants being, they've got to play better football. They've got to play smarter football. That's where the issues are. Even in this game, as bad as they played offensively, if you take away some of those penalties that they had, they may win this game. So the Giants right now, they're beating themselves. It wasn't about the Saints. It wasn't about Dallas. It wasn't about Tampa. The Giants are beating the Giants. And last time I checked, the Giants should not be playing the Giants. And that's what they're doing right now. They're playing the Giants.
All right, we got to talk about it. And, it's funny. We started to talk about it several weeks back with the Tampa game just because it was so ugly. A little bit better against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. However, the dreaded tank word comes in. Now, I'm not saying that they're not trying. There's no doubt, as you just said, the Giants tried hard today. But lots of guys sat down today. In fact, we were curious as to why Malik Neighbors played at all with the groin and the hammy and anything else that's going on. But again, Giants are obviously tanking. My question to you is, and to be honest, I don't know the answer to the question from my perspective. Who's the GM and who's the coach next year? And is it Shane and Dable, respectively?
You know what? I think as bad as it is, I think you go back with it and run it back, because we've tried this recipe before. Every 2 years, you change the coach, you change the GM. Every 4, it hasn't worked. Let's have a little consistency. Give them 1 more year. Let them reset the franchise with a franchise quarterback and see how it goes. You got a franchise receiver. Now, let's go address the offensive line. Let's go address the quarterback position and see how it goes for next year moving forward. I would personally like to see Dayball back. I would personally like to see Joe Shane back. Is there some issues there? Yeah, there is. But for me personally, let's not continue to do the same cycle hoping to get something different. Let's go back, with these guys, and let's see the plan through. And because they do have some good pieces. Are there enough? No, it's not enough. Clearly, it's not enough. But let's see if we can get a franchise quarterback in here to reset the franchise and see what happens.
All right, we promised we'd try and find a win. I said try and find a win. Next week, Baltimore. I'm thinking that win doesn't happen against Baltimore, Coach.
Yeah, I'm putting FanDuel money on that one.
And then we're in Atlanta the following week, 3 days before Christmas, Sunday, December 22nd. Tough place to play in Atlanta, but Atlanta's not impossible. So maybe there. Obviously, we can also look at the Colts game. But again, the Giants have been so bad at home, and we're going to give them another loss against the Ravens next week. Who knows what to expect against the Colts?
Yeah. You know what? I really think maybe Atlanta is probably the best chance. The Colts, they've been so up and down all year. Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, you never know who you're getting in that. But I do think Atlanta got beat today. They got beat by Minnesota fairly good. I think 42-21 was the final. I've got to say that's the best one. I don't think Atlanta's very good on defense right now. Maybe offensively they can get a spark going against that in that game. So I'm going to go. I'm gonna take my FanDuel on Atlanta on that one.
All right, I think I'm with you. As we said, you'd love to pick the Colts at home, but the struggles at home have been mighty, to say the least. All right, Thanks for making Locked On Sports New York your first listen today. Now, for your second listen, go find the new Locked On NFL with 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowlands kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the Barber Shop with Tony Wiggins for some real talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also want to mention our partner in crime over at Locked On Giants, the wonderful Patricia Traina. She handles all the stuff there. Follow, subscribe, and enjoy. Mercifully, Coach, 4 more games to go. Baltimore, Atlanta, Indy, and then Philadelphia. What should we look for in the next 4 weeks? Any positive reinforcements that we can look for heading forward?
The positive reinforcement, you got 4 games left.
Right.
Right now that's the only positive going forward. Hopefully the Giants can stay out of this, keep Malik Neighbors healthy. But I say this in all seriousness. They will compete. I do believe that they will compete. They'll play hard down the stretch. I believe it'll be more games like it was today. Pretty low scoring. I think Baltimore is one where they're pretty much outclassed. But Atlanta, the Colts, Philly could have everything wrapped up by that time. So they could probably sit everybody knowing they're going into the playoffs if everything's locked up, if they're into the number 2 seed or number 1 seed locked up. So, but I do think the Giants will play hard down the stretch because there is a professional pride that is in that building, in that locker room. And guys like, even though he's out, Dexter will not let those guys quit on this season.
Excellent stuff, Coach. It's so ugly. We're going to have to find a way to get through it all with a month to go. Again, a 14-11 loss. The Giants are now 2-11. For the coach, I'm Jay. We will see you next week.